I still remember the smell of disinfectant and cold metal the morning I signed the consent papers. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. A mother doesn't hesitate when her child is dying. My son Adil lay in the hospital bed across the room, thin, pale, and exhausted. Tubes ran from his arms like fragile lifelines. The doctors had used words I never wanted to hear: renal failure, critical, no more time. He needed a kidney. And I was a match. I was 56 years old, widowed, with aching joints and a body that had already worked too hard its entire life. But none of that mattered. I would give him anything: my kidney, my years, my breath, if it meant he could live. "Are you sure?" the surgeon asked gently. "Recovery won't be easy." I didn't even look at him. "Yes," I said, "he's my son." Adil squeezed my hand weakly, his eyes filled with tears. "I'll never forget this, Amy," he whispered, "never." I believed him. The surgery. The operation lasted hours. When I woke up, pain tore through my side like fire, but the first thing I asked was, "My son." "He's stable," the nurse smiled. "The transplant was successful." Relief washed over me so hard I cried. For 2 days we stayed in the hospital, 2 patients, one story. Nurses came and went, doctors checked charts, family visited with flowers and prayers. Adil's wife Sana came once. She stood at the foot of his bed, arms crossed, phone in hand. She asked the doctor questions about medications and diet, but not once did she look at me. Not once did she ask how I was feeling. I told myself she was stressed; anyone would be. On the third day we were both discharged. "Stay with us," Adil said as the nurse wheeled me toward the exit. "You shouldn't be alone while you recover." My heart warmed. I thought maybe, after years of living quietly on my own, I would finally feel like part of my son's life again. I didn't know I was walking into my own heartbreak. 3 days later. Recovery was slow and painful. Every movement hurt. I couldn't bend easily, even breathing felt heavy. Still, I tried to help around the house, small things: folding laundry, making tea, wiping the counter. Sana watched me constantly. If I rested, she sighed loudly. If I moved too slowly, she rolled her eyes. If I offered help, she said, "We'll manage." On the third morning, Adil called me into the living room. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Sana stood beside him, arms folded. "We need to talk," he said. My stomach tightened. "Yes, Beta." He cleared his throat. "Sana thinks it's best if you go back to your place." I laughed softly, thinking it was a joke. "I just got out of surgery." "She needs space," he said quickly, "and you'll recover better at home." My chest felt tight. "Adil," I whispered, "I gave you my kidney." He finally looked at me then, but his eyes were distant. "And I'm grateful," he said, "but that doesn't mean you can stay here forever." Sana stepped forward. "This isn't a hospital," she said coldly. "We have our own life." I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. "I don't want forever," I said, "just until I can walk without pain." Adil looked away. "I'll call you a rickshaw," he said. "You should leave today." 3 days. 3 days after giving him a piece of my body, my own son threw me out. Alone again. The ride home was a blur. Every bump sent pain through my side, but worse than the physical pain was the silence: no phone call, no message, no concern. That night my wounds started bleeding. I panicked. I called Adil. No answer. I called again. Still nothing. Finally, I dragged myself to the hospital. The doctor's words. The same surgeon who had performed our transplant saw me in the emergency room. His face tightened when he saw my chart. "You shouldn't be alone," he said, "and you should not be under stress." Then he paused. "Has your son been taking his anti-rejection medication?" I blinked. I assume so." The doctor frowned and turned his screen toward me. "He missed 2 doses already." My heart stopped. "That's dangerous," he continued, "very dangerous." I shook my head. "He wouldn't do that." The doctor hesitated, then said quietly, "There's something else you should know." I held my breath. "The kidney you donated, it's being rejected faster than expected. This often happens when the patient doesn't follow medical instructions." Tears burned my eyes. "But there's more," he added. "Sana called yesterday." My chest tightened. What did she want? She asked if, in case of total rejection, another donor would be available. I felt dizzy. She asked if you could donate again. The room spun. They didn't want me gone because I was a burden. They wanted me gone until they needed me again. The choice. The doctor looked at me with pity. You've already given enough, he said, more than enough. For the first time in years, I felt something unfamiliar rise inside me. Not guilt. Not fear. Strength. I called Adil that night. He answered on the third ring. Ami. I spoke to the doctor, I said calmly. Silence. Then what did he say? He said you missed your medication. More silence. And he said Sana asked if I could donate again. His breath caught. I won't, I said simply. What, he whispered. I won't destroy my body so you can disrespect my life. Ami. I gave you a kidney, I said. I don't owe you my dignity too. I hung up. Months later. I recovered. Slowly, painfully, but fully. Adil's transplant eventually failed. He went back on dialysis. Sana left. One evening months later, there was a knock on my door. Adil stood there, thin, tired, alone. I'm sorry, he said, I was wrong. I looked at my son, the boy I once carried, the man who broke my heart. I forgave you the day I gave you my kidney, I said softly, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I closed the door gently. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Because sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to stop sacrificing yourself for someone who would never do the same.